We're going to make chili rellenos today, my favorite Tex-Mex or Mexican dish. You rarely find it made in restaurants because it's hard to make ahead of time, and you rarely find them well made. But hopefully I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm not Mexican or Mexican American, I'm Puerto Rican, but I lived for many years in El Paso, Texas, and I got to love and learn to make this wonderful food. I've been making chili rellenos for 20 plus years, making them more than 100 times, I'm sure. I hope to share some tricks with you. I'm not going to claim they're easy to make. A lot of people in their videos or recipes say they're easy, and you know what, they're not, but they're not difficult either. They're just time consuming and kind of messy. So stay tuned. So the first step in making chili rellenos is to blacken the skin of the peppers. Now I'm using 2 peppers here. I've got 3 people coming for dinner tonight, so I'm making 7 chili rellenos. They tend to be pretty satisfying. These long green peppers are, yes, Hatch Chili peppers. It's September 1st, and they're still available, probably more in the Southwest, but we can even get them in Washington, D.C. And when it's Hatch pepper season, which is only like a few weeks at the end of the summer, everybody likes to make chili rellenos with the Hatch peppers. And then I've got 2 poblano peppers, much darker green color, which I grew myself. And if they were 2 inches longer, they would be perfect for chili rellenos. You want the peppers to be straight, not all in ringlets. But I have never been able to get my homegrown poblano peppers to grow more than this. I actually think the poblano peppers, and we'll test this today, I actually think the poblano peppers are easier to roast. They have a somewhat tougher skin, and so you'll see that one of the real tricks to this is to roast these peppers and then skin them and seed them without losing their integrity, because eventually you have to stuff them. And I think the poblano peppers are just better because of their texture and the thickness of their skin. It's easier to keep them in whole. These Hatch peppers, I think, are skinnier and more temperamental. Also, by the way, both of these peppers can be temperamental. They tend to be mild. Poblanos are always default mild. You'll see Hatch chili peppers labeled mild or medium or hot. These are mediums. But I think every once in a while an aggressive pepper sneaks through. Most of them are shy, but sometimes they're kind of nasty, and that can be a surprise for whoever gets that pepper. But luckily, all that cheese that we're going to stuff them with will work against any excessive heat. So what we're going to do is stick them in the broiler. This is this very cruddy baking sheet I have that I usually use to catch spills and do stuff like this. I'm going to put them on a high broiler. It normally takes about 10 minutes per side. In my broiler, cooking times will vary, and I'll come back and I'll show you what I'm looking for. I usually turn them once while I'm broiling them. Okay, so it's about 20 minutes later. I actually think I did 10 minutes on one side and 7 minutes on the other. I flipped them over and alternated them front to back to get even blackening and burning. One of the things that's really good is to still be able to pick them up by the stem. That's excellent. And here's that poblano stem cracked, but I can still pick it up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick them in a brown paper bag, close the bag, and let them sweat and cool off. This recipe throughout has ample opportunities to burn yourself, so I like to let them cool off an hour or two. Letting them sweat in the brown paper bag actually makes it easier to take off the skin. So we'll be back when that's ready to happen. So it's kind of difficult to get both my face and the peppers in the picture. They have been sweating in this bag for over an hour. They're nice and cool. And now what I want to do is strip off the burned skin, slit them, and take out as many of the seeds as I can. It's not so easy to do. I've got here a dull knife, a butter knife, so that I won't easily do additional damage to my pepper. So now what I'm doing is just stripping off the skin. If the dynamics of everything have worked correctly, this should not be too hard. But sometimes, for whatever reason, the skin doesn't separate the way it should. It's always exciting and extremely satisfying when you get a huge big chunk of skin to come off at one time. That was almost good. That's even better. Yes. Very exciting that this pepper has a lot of integrity. You don't need to be OCD about this. It's not like you gotta have it absolutely pristine. In fact, the one thing that you need to be OCD about is make sure that the integrity of the pepper remains. So, oftentimes, and this is great, a natural slit emerges in the pepper as a result of the roasting, and that's fantastic because then you don't have to bother. And you get your hand in there and you take out the seeds. And I like to say that sometimes I think the pepper is pregnant because it's got a lot more seeds than others and they get everywhere and they're messy. So that's why I always like to have lots of paper towels, and one of them needs to be moist. So I'm going to use this nice dull knife to try to get more peppers out. Also, paper towel, but I'm just not going to risk messing up the integrity of the pepper to make them absolutely clean. So that's it. I've got about 4 or 5 more of these to do, and if anything interesting happens, I'll be sure to film it. So I've pulled out one of the poblano peppers. Remember, I had 2 peppers I had grown myself, just to show you the difference. So the skin doesn't quite blister the same way on the poblano pepper as it seems to on the Hatch. You have to really work to separate the skin from the meat. Not sure why. So we're doing okay now, and generally speaking, I think the poblano peppers are sturdier than the Hatch. So you'll notice it hasn't developed a slit just through the roasting process, whereas every single Hatch I've peeled so far has developed that slit. So just a little different thing. These peppers are barely big enough to stuff. If you go to your local grocery store, whereas Hatch peppers are only available for 1 month of the year, poblanos are usually available all the time. They're definitely, I think, Hatch and poblano are like 1A and 1B in terms of the best peppers to make chili rellenos out of. So, given that this one actually doesn't have a natural slit, I'm going to go ahead and slit it for you, I hope. So I'm just going to, basically I just want to get an opening created with the butter knife. Then I stick my finger in there. Then I open it up, but not to the end. And then I just rip out as much of the seed as I can without affecting, the integrity of the pepper. This one I think was pregnant because it's got a lot of seed. And now we're going to brush it off. Use the paper towel. And peppers, I'll be finding peppers for weeks now, and I'll stick it with the others. All right, so I have peeled and sort of seeded my Chile Rellenos. I think I started out with 7 of them, 5 Hatch and 2 Poblano. I still have 7, although one of them is definitely in critical condition. That's why you always need to start with more chilies than you think you're going to need, than you actually plan to fry up, because the chances are good you're going to lose one along the way, particularly if it's your first time. And no harm, because then you can use the one that lost its integrity to create a salsa, for example. So that's pretty straightforward. So what I've done is I had about half a bar left of pepper jack cheese, so I've sliced it into kind of like little cigarette size slices. I once tried to use shredded cheese in stuffing a chili relleno. That's a huge mistake, because you can't get enough shredded cheese into the chili in one go, so you end up handling it over and over again, which causes it to fall apart. So it's much better to have like 1 or 2 sticks of cheese that you're going to just slide in there. And I also think that the rigidness of the cheese kind of provides like a scaffolding support for the chili. I don't know, I might be wrong, but that's what I think. So here's the poblano. You can see it has a lot of integrity. I have, by the way, a nice plate here. And then at the bottom, I've just put a little flour on it, because eventually when you apply the egg batter, so we're only about a third of the way through the process. When you dip the poblanos in egg batter, first you want to coat them in flour to help the egg batter stick. And so again, minimize the handling. Just take this plate that you're going to rest the stuffed chilies on and put flour at the bottom, and then we put flour at the top, and we're kind of done there. So just going to take my little cigarette here. It's kind of a fat one, so I'll put them in here, and I just slide them in, kind of like that. There we go. And you see now he's kind of comfortable and cozy in there. I could probably take another little piece. So I'm looking for another little piece. It's tempting to overstuff them. You're being generous, but not a good idea. So you want a comfortable stuffing, but not squeezing all the cheese you can in there. You can also stuff with other, ground beef, or a combination of ground beef and cheese, or you can do like a vegetarian one, and add raisins. I prefer the classic cheese chili relleno. That's what I like. So we're just gonna put them in the put them right here, and now we'll grab. All right, so here's my plate of rellenos. I have dusted them, applied flour to the top of them. You can see the poblanos are nice and tight, and the Hatch guys, they look like they've had open surgery, and the doctor decided they had to keep the chest open. What I'm going to do now is put them in the refrigerator and let them sit until I'm ready to start cooking, which won't be for another 2 or 3 hours. I think if you can manage the refrigerator time, it really helps. I think cooling off the peppers firms them up a little bit, and they all start talking, the flour, the pepper, the cheese, to kind of figure out what's going on. They're going to get fried, and they prepare themselves for that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay there for 3 hours. That's a good amount of time. And then next time you see me, I'm going to be whipping egg whites. All right, it's a little bit after 6, 5 minutes after 6. And I'm going to beat the egg whites. I'm sure all of you know how to beat egg whites. You use metal or glass, not plastic. I don't know about ceramic. I'm not sure, so I use metal or glass. And this is like a key step for the whole chili relleno thing, is that you want to really fluff up these egg whites. So you don't want to take them straight out of the refrigerator. I'm also assuming that you all know how to separate eggs. Do it however you like. I'm not dictatorial about that. And well, this is exciting YouTube video, so what I want to say here is, when you're ready to do your egg whites, and that was also a very, very good view of my shoulder. When you're ready to do your egg whites, make sure you've got everything else ready. So I've got a saucepan on, and you'll see it soon, on the stove, and the oil is heating up. It needs to be like a 350 degree kind of classic temperature for frying before you dip the chili rellenos in. I've taken the chili rellenos out of the refrigerator. They were in there for 3 hours. I have probably 3 or 4 egg whites here. And the key to a really great egg white batter is really fluffy egg whites. And what no recipe ever told me, but I figured out, is you need to do this in stages. Let's say you're making 6 chili rellenos and you're using 6 eggs. If you beat the 6 egg whites at the beginning, all that's going to happen is that by the time you get to the 3rd chili relleno, they're going to be flat, and you're not going to have a good chili relleno coating. So do it in stages. So here I go with this guy.